Good morning. I'm Elton Robinson with your October 2nd grain update. We're coming to you on the road this week from a hotel room in Ocala, Florida. The big story this week is Hurricane Joaquin, which, depending on its path, could bring even more rain to the southeast and eastern coast. Rain had been forecast even without the effect of the hurricane in those regions. In fact, flooding in the streets was reported yesterday in Spartanburg County, South Carolina. Last week, constant rain also hampered field activity in North Carolina, where producers are trying to wrap up corn harvest. Further west in Mississippi and Alabama, rainfall has not been as plentiful. Tim Malone with FSA in northwest Alabama said a run of dry weather has been good for harvest, but not so much for double crop soybeans and pasture. Now let's move on to harvest of this season's crops. As of the end of last week, about 18% of the U.S. corn crop had been harvested, with gathering well underway in the Mid-South, Southeast, and Texas. Illinois and Indiana are 30% and 18% complete, respectively, while Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, and the Dakotas are still under 5% complete. 68% of the corn crop is listed in good to excellent condition, which is no change from the previous week. A number of key producing states are still reporting as much as 15 to 20% of the crop in poor to very poor condition, and it's pretty much been that way for the entire summer. About a quarter of the U.S. soybean crop is in the bins, which is about 5% ahead of last year at this time. Louisiana and Mississippi are well over halfway through. About 62% of the U.S. crop is listed in good to excellent condition compared to 72% last year. However, 81% of the Wisconsin corn crop, 79% of the Minnesota crop, and 77% of the South Dakota and Iowa corn crops are listed in good to excellent condition. 36% of the U.S. sorghum crop has been harvested, with gathering virtually complete in Arkansas and Louisiana. 65% of that crop is listed in good to excellent condition. 69% of the U.S. rice crop has been harvested, a little ahead of last year's pace. Louisiana and Texas are virtually finished with initial harvest, while Arkansas and Mississippi are approaching 3/4 complete. USDA reports about 31% of winter wheat acres are planted, which is 4% off the 5-year average. Significant progress has been made in Colorado, Montana, Nebraska, and South Dakota. Now, here are the latest weekly export numbers from USDA's Foreign Agricultural Service for the week ending September 24th. For wheat, exports of 564,000 metric tons were down 8% from the previous week, but up 3% from the prior 4-week average. Customers included China, South Korea, Nigeria, and Indonesia. Corn exports of 814,000 metric tons were up 2% from the previous week. Primary destinations were Mexico, Japan, and Colombia. Those three countries collectively imported 528,000 metric tons. Sorghum exports of 284,000 metric tons were up 68% from the previous week and 86% from the prior 4-week average. The two destinations were once again China and Mexico. Rice exports, meanwhile, slid to 42,000 metric tons, a decline of 55% from the previous week and 60% from the prior 4-week average. Haiti and Japan were primary destinations. Soybean exports of 815,000 metric tons were shipped to China, Germany, Mexico, the Netherlands, and Indonesia. Soybean meal exports of 180,000 metric tons were up 99% from the previous week and 24% from the prior 4-week average, with the Philippines, South America, and Canada as primary destinations. Soybean oil exports were down 89%. Beef exports of 11,000 metric tons were down 10% from the previous week, while pork exports were down 7%. Well, that's it for this week's report. I'm Elton Robinson. See you next week.